Welcome back to Self-Love Ignited. My name is Katie, and I am so happy to be bringing you this beautiful interview with Emily Bauman. Emily also goes by the artist name of Amanacer, and she is a visual artist, author, serial entrepreneur, and creative living expert. Raised in Haiti until the age of 17 by Canadian parents, she's a lover of saltwater, ceremonial grade cacao, and laughing so hard it kinda hurts. When she is not painting and creating in her Tulum studio, she works to turn on other people's creativity and natural radiance at the art spa. Emily joined us to share her own experiences of growing up and not really liking her body, of trying to change who she was, trying to change what she looked like, and really telling the story of how she discovered her own inner radiance. And when she did, this changed everything. It changed her relationships, it changed how other people saw her, and it has changed how she's showing up and sharing her amazing gifts with the world. Emily is just such a beautiful soul, and I am so thrilled to be able to bring this interview to you today. All right, Emily, welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy to have you here with me today.
Hi, Katie. Oh my gosh, what a freaking treat to join you.
It's taken us a little while to get this recording booked because you are in Mexico and I am in Australia. So, time zones, bit of fun, but we're here. That's cool. I'm totally happy. I'm totally pumped that we're finally doing this. So before we dive in and get into sort of the nitty-gritty of your story, why don't you just take a moment and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you, about who you are, about where you are, and start there.
Thank you, Katie. So my name is Emily, and I also go by Amanacer. And Amanacer is an artist name I chose for myself when I was 10 years old. If you can believe it, I was quite precocious, and I translated my middle name, Dawn, into Spanish, and I spelled it wrong, but in the end it turns out it means the soul that loves to be born in Spanish. So Amanacer or Emily are both my names, and I'm coming at you from Tulum, Mexico, where I moved 6 months ago to give birth to a project called the Art Spa. And I work with women, especially who want to unleash their full radiance and their creative juiciness into the world, and that's my full-time job. So thank you for having me.
That is awesome. That's awesome. I cannot wait to dive in. And I know, because you and I have chatted once before, you have such an interesting story. You have such a unique story, and you've packed a lot into, I think we're the same age, and you've packed so much in already, which is amazing. So, the podcast, this is Self-Love Ignited, right? So we are all about self-love on our relationships with ourselves, our relationships with our bodies, and really just sort of telling the story about how you came from a place of not liking parts of yourself, not loving parts of yourself, to really embracing all that you are. So I would just love for you to tell us your story, and it's usually easier if we just start at the beginning. So where did your challenges start for you? How did they start showing up in your life?
Such a juicy question, because it was so early for me. I had a very unconventional childhood because both my parents were bohemian maverick souls. My parents moved our entire family from small town Ontario, Canada, to the beautiful and very tumultuous island nation of Haiti in the Caribbean when I was in grade 2. So I went from this very tranquil farm town to a country that was under political embargo. There was no electricity, and everyone at my new school looked so different from me. I was one of 2 white girls, and for all those listening, just so you can picture me, I have really curly blonde hair. I'm 5'3", shorty with big blue eyes and a lot of freckles. So going to the first free Black Republic in the entire world and making that my new home, you can imagine. So I was teased for the next 10 years for being pale instead of tanned, for being flat-chested instead of having voluptuous big boobies, and I just looked wrong to fit the standard of beauty. because in Haiti and the Caribbean and so much of Latin America, it's about looking like a Brazilian carnival queen, you know, and I had nice hair by their standard, and that's all I had going for me. So I spent my first 20 years wishing I looked very differently from myself. And I would do fake tanner, go to tanning beds, and like just really do whatever it took to try and fit this mold, until one last like bad relationship. I was looking for affirmations and men, and it was just like this wake up call one day when I was in Brazil, and I found myself dyeing my hair brown because I didn't want to be who I was anymore. And I was just like basically trying to turn myself into a different person. And the person sitting in the chair refused to dye my hair. And so then she's like, I can't. And it was like the one thing. So that was a wake up call for me, where I was just like, oh shit, what am I doing? Mm-hmm. And that jump started this whole journey towards stopping the comparison, and just kind of asking myself, you know, like, what do I want to actually look like? What would it look like for me to be myself? And what would it look like for me to be having the most fun all the time, genuinely? So I stopped comparing myself to other women and other lifestyles. And that was a big wake up call for me.
Wow. That's incredible. So how old were you? You said you were 20-ish when that happened?
Yes.
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 So I had left Haiti at 17. I went back to Canada to do a university degree, and I fast-tracked that because I was a little nerd, brainiac. And so then I was about to do a master's degree in diplomacy and like become a diplomat. And I was just crunching myself into yet another box of self-hatred and trying to become a very serious person that would be taken seriously by men in suits. So not only was I full-time trying to look like a different kind of woman, I was trying to really just quell my natural, really sensual energy to be respected in the halls of power. And that was the Canadian government.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'll tell you, Katie, there was something inside of me the whole time, and it's something inside every woman. I truly believe it's this like seed of radiance and creativity and juiciness that won't let you completely extinguish it. And for me, that came out as an artist. So I was a painter from the age of 7. As I was struggling with this identity crisis, my mother gave me 2 tools. She gave me a journal to write in, and she gave me art supplies to be painting every time I felt confused and hatred and like really lost. And that saved me. So all the time that I was doing this very serious career of like becoming a diplomat, I was also secretly on the side having fabulous art parties and like art exhibits, and no one at my work or my school like knew that I had 2 lives, until finally I decided to merge them into one life, and that's where I am now. So a lot happened in between, but you know, it's been a freaking journey. I'm 33 and like,
yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. So how did you go from being that like 20-year-old who's trying to dye her hair to be somebody else, right? Trying to fit into the mold of society of what, you know, you thought you should, you know, quote unquote, should look like and should be. And this person who is doing like a diplomacy, like trying to like become a diplomat, yet also being this beautiful creative artist, like, because it's one thing to realize that this is what you're doing. And I think many of us have had sort of wake up calls in various ways, but it's another to actually do something about it. Like that takes a hell of a lot of courage and bravery and being willing to like, you know, dare to be yourself. So what did that look like? What did you start doing?
I did things that seem really insignificant that anyone can do that build into kind of these patterns and habits, and it weaves a web of amazing, just feeling so good that you learn resilience and love as like an ongoing practice. So for example, I would cover myself from head to toe, and this is in the middle of the Canadian winter, so I would just like crank up the heat in the house, cover myself in head to toe with like the most delicious smelling body oils, and I would massage every part of my body and just be like, I am so sorry to my like calves for thinking they were too fat, to my thighs and I would apologize to them, massage them, crank up some really sensual music. I don't know why, but I love Lebanese, like desert Arabian music. And I would have a dance party and then paint, usually only wearing like just something very small, like a bikini bottom. And I would have these dance parties and just like love up on myself, light some candles. And it was so much fun that I was like, oh my God, I'm by myself in my body having the most fun right now. And that art series was pretty dope. I'm not gonna lie. I sold all those paintings that came out of those sessions. I was very Amanacer. And then I started doing something called sensual eating, where instead of standing at the kitchen counter and just shoving food in my face, I would make myself these little hors d'oeuvre platters with the most amazing things from the deli and just like smell them. And then I would gaze at them, and then I would close my eyes and just like purposefully moan, and just like if it was really good, just like, this is so good. And just really get in touch with all of my senses. So I turned myself on with my eyes, with my body, with like sight, sound, touch, everything. And so just literally getting out of my head and into my body was a way to come home to myself. And then I think the last thing that was really key, I used to go to the gym and train with like really rigid goals in mind. And I said, this is my ideal body weight. And I think a lot of us do that, where you're like, 100 and whatever pounds is what I should be. Yeah. And that rigidity was like the meanest girl. She was so mean. I was so mean to myself with this voice in my head. And so what really helped me to take action differently and train differently and dance differently and do all the things differently was be like, oh, wait, as a woman, I go through cycles every single month. And I'm going to be chubbier at different parts of the month. And my eyes are going to be more or less symmetrical at different times of the month. And I'm going to have like this teenage, almost promiscuous, sensual, flirtatious energy when I'm ovulating. And that's not going to be the case when I'm on my moon and I'm bleeding, and I'm not going to lift the same weights. I'm going to stretch luxuriously and drink tea. And so I literally took my physical activity differently based on the fluidity that is native to me. Yeah.
That's gorgeous. Those three things, like you said, those are things that literally every single person has available to them right now. Like every woman can start doing those. And, you know, they're quite simple in essence, yet as you're speaking and I'm sort of imagining doing that, like those are powerful things, like really, like deeply powerful inside, really transformative.
It is.
Yeah.
It's really, I believe so much that the senses are a gateway to not only our feminine intuition and our love for ourselves, but just this sense of magic and wonder. And when we stop looking at ourselves with judgment and analysis in our mind, and we just look at our bodies and we feel ourselves with like wonder, like, oh my gosh, I get to live in these amazing hips and thighs, and I get to move through the world with this much energy, it just completely changed me. Yeah. And then what was amazing is that I saw myself shedding pounds and lightening up just as I shifted the way that I was treating myself. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's super cool. That's super cool. Yeah, I like to, you know, quite often I speak to people about how holding extra weight on our bodies is usually a symptom of something else. And quite often it's, you know, suppressed creativity, suppressed femininity, you know, like it's like you're not allowing yourself to express yourself in some way. So we sort of can hold on to weight as it's like your body's just like gripping because it's not allowed. And as soon as you sort of almost surrender and allow a release in one area, it's like your body just goes, oh, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what it was for me? I so hear you. And I agree 125 million%, because for me, I made the choice to leave my diplomacy career behind one winter night when I just was like in the government cubicle, and it was just like 11 o'clock at night. And I'm like, I want a juicier life than this. Like I deserve to feel good all the time. And one of my key values is just being warm. Like that makes me so happy. And I'm like, I need to move somewhere that mangoes grow, and I'm going to be warm, and I'm going to be with a community where I make art all the time and they inspire me. And so when I moved to Haiti, it was this whole rediscovering of all of the lessons and all of the meanness of my childhood. But I got to come back to that society and that culture as an adult. And then I went through 2 years of healing. And
Yeah.
so for the past, it was 2 years ago that it really came full circle. So I was in my early 30s and I was just deeply accepting how much I stood out and loving it instead of like trying to change. And then I was just like so freaking gregarious and open, and I wasn't rejected by anyone. And it was really cool. And I think any woman who fully owns herself and shows up in the space that she wants to inhabit, all of the fear of rejection that makes us cower down and put extra weight to protect ourselves, it's like, oh, I can just let that all go. I don't have to be scared, and I can show up in my full self without fear. Yay!
Yeah. Ooh, you gave me goosebumps on my arm there when you said that. Yeah, it's like we have to see ourselves first and accept ourselves first. And like you said, as soon as you started doing that, everybody around you was suddenly like, cool, right? Like it wasn't an issue anymore because you didn't make it an issue, because you were so solid in yourself.
Oh my gosh.
Beautiful. So this sort of like really this beautiful journey that you have been on, would you call this self-love, or is this like self-acceptance, or like what sort of terms feel true to you?
For me, it feels like a radiance activation, because I believe that every single woman is innately a glowing goddess-like woman, and that we are no different from goddesses. I think that they are just all aspects of ourselves. Like you pull a goddess card from an oracle deck, that's just mirroring the part of you that you need to remember that day. And so radiance activation is the way I frame it. And it's just, for anyone not familiar with the term activation, it just means that you are in essence turning into a, like tuning in to a radio frequency, to a song that you're already playing, you're already broadcasting it, you're just getting familiar with that frequency, and then you're beaming it out into the whole wide world. And so getting familiar with that radiant frequency is just a matter of spending time with women who see you in that way, and having them be beautiful mirrors for you, and like looking at yourself through that lens of love. And so, yeah, for me, radiance activation is the juiciest term.
Yeah, that is a juicy term. That is a juicy term. So as you've been through this radiance activation, I'm totally going to steal that as well. Just
Yeah,
so you know,
girl.
I
Welcome
love
to the
that.
Art Spa Lingo. Please do spread it. All the women of the world, listen.
Everybody, radiance activation. As you have sort of really gone through this and activated your radiance and really like gotten in touch with that part of yourself, do you care for yourself differently? Do you care for your mental health differently than prior to this?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like a guardian of my own well-being, and I take it like mama bear level seriousness. Do you know what I mean? Like, who do I allow myself to spend time with? Who gets access to me? I think every woman should treat herself like a celebrity. Like, who gets to be in my circle? That is a really good question. And are there toxic relationships with like friends from elementary school, high school, work, whatever, that they don't necessarily need access to you? So that's something that's come up this month a lot for me, is just permission to not listen to media or podcasts or voices or opinions of people that really bring you down energetically. And that's part of my, like, really my mental health. And then just also accepting that I'm never going to end this journey of radiance activation, that it's ongoing, and I have to be really watching my thoughts. And it's not like I stop pinching my belly and be like, oh, I wish this were flat abs. Like, I still find myself doing that, and I'll be like, oh no, I watch that I've been eating a lot more carbs lately, because why? And I get curious and I start questioning and I see the patterns. I'm like, okay, well, I look this way because I'm really stressed out about this new business launch, and I've been emotionally eating and soothing myself. And so I need to do better about coaching my inner child as I go through this increased period of stress and beautiful expansion in my life. So yeah, I'm always trying to nurture myself more and be more like a better guardian of my mental and physical health. Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. So this, I know you've said a couple times now, art spa, which I know is like your baby that you were like birthing into this world, and you have so much like passion and energy about it. So I would just love to know, how has your own personal journey of activating your radiance, oh damn, I love that term. How has your own personal journey impacted your work as an entrepreneur? Like how, what's the connection between the two?
Mm. So it actually is intertwined like the spiral of a seashell. It's all one and the same, and they keep circling back and supporting each other. The way that the art spa concept was invented was that I received it in a pretty trippy way. I kind of consider myself galactic and grounded, so I can do like astral projection and then just nerd out about like biological science for a while. And I like both. So the art spa is that mirror of the left brain and the right brain coming together. And I received it during a breath work session, just like holotropic breathing for 1 hour. And it was the first time I'd ever done breath work. I did it with my sister, Victoria Bauman. And it was trauma release, emotional. I was crying, I was laughing, saw my guardians and angels. And then the second half was just them being like, all right, Amanacer, here's what you need to do with the rest of your life. You need to take every single tool that you have used when you were being held at gunpoint to stay calm and peaceful, when you were being bullied to recover your self-love, when you were painting to process all of the chaos of the outer world and alchemize it into your being. So I used all of these things, and the art spa kind of download during that breathwork session came out, and then I started to test it. And so as I was testing it on myself, you might not believe this, but last year I was in lockdown. So I was living in Haiti, and we had house arrest for months and months out of the year because of political violence, because of burning barricades in the streets tied into political protests and all kinds of stuff happening. So I had come back from Bali into this heart of chaos. I was working at the United Nations, so I had this amazing opportunity where I was being fully paid to stay at home under house arrest. So I turned my whole life into an art spa test. And then as things got more safe, I invited close friends, confidants to come and run through this 12-step activation with me. And they all said the same thing. I feel rebirthed. I feel like my light is fully turned on. They were glowing. They were twirling. And these are not just young women. One woman was a 65-year-old battle axe who had run her own construction company in the ultimate man's world. So I was like, ooh, I have something here. Like, this is working. So I loved it by myself. I tested it on all kinds of fabulous women. And then I was just like, okay, I'm just going to be the messenger or the conduit of this creativity and radiance activation.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Oh, I love that. And I think when you get something that, I mean, it's one thing for you to love it because it's like, it's your work. So you're kind of biased, right? But like when you have other people from the outside, and like you said, of all ages, from all walks of life come, and they all have the same experience. Yeah, there's something magical in that. Yeah.
And I really knew it when I tested it on my first men. I'm like, ooh, this is going to be interesting. Like a 30-year-old entrepreneur who doesn't speak any of my lingo, can I use my analytical mind to get through to him? And yes, we ended up doing like this incredible chakra cleanse meditation. We did inner child healing. He was weeping on the floor and like transformed his relationship with his wife. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is going on? What is this thing? So it really feels like it's coming through me, and it's a freaking honor now to do it in Tulum, Mexico full time.
That's magical. That's magical. Is this something that is available online to people everywhere? Or is this?
Indeed it is.
It is.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'm going to make sure that we link to that because that just sounds absolutely incredible. And it sounds like you have been given such an amazing gift. And yeah, let's spread this far and wide.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. My heart has really been with everyone in Australia, especially who are experiencing the lockdown scenario, because it's so familiar to me and close to my heart, because that's where I turned myself on creatively more than ever before. So I know that whatever feels like a tight kind of constraining space can actually become command and control center for your radiance activation.
I like to think of it as kind of like a diamond, right? Like a diamond has to be formed under such high pressure. And I think sometimes it's these circumstances, whether it be lockdown or political unrest or like something in your life sort of falling apart or feeling like it's too much, that I think if we really harness it, I think there's some incredible opportunities in that to really like bust through and come out the other side.
Yes.
And yeah.
Let it be the catalyst.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you've talked a lot about a lot of different things, both that you've been through, but also that you have done, right? You talked about sensual eating and doing like self-massage, which is just awesome. I'm 100% on board with that. And you talked about, you know, like doing your art and really tuning into that and putting on music that really feels good to you. And, but you know, if there's somebody listening who maybe is still sort of in that dark place, maybe is still trying to change themselves and fit into somebody else's, you know, version of ideal, you know, quote unquote ideal, is there like one exercise or practice that you would recommend that they sort of start with?
Ooh, that's a juicy one, because it really depends on the person and the source of the blockage. And then we can tailor it to them. And what is the root and the core shadow? Because I believe that you are innately beautiful and radiant, and that it's just a matter of moving away kind of all the dust and the crap that's stopping you from shining. And so the nature of that kind of the heaviness is what we want to move away. And for anyone, it can be dance, just signing up for dance class, watching a video. I think especially for women, just freaking shaking it out and dancing can be so therapeutic and cathartic, because the body's wisdom is just beyond measure. So I guess one thing that I could suggest for anyone is cranking up music. And it doesn't have to be positive music. In fact, sometimes if you're feeling really crappy, you need to put on some really angry, like gnarly music that matches your frequency, except so deeply exactly where you at in this moment, and just like let it rage out, or let yourself feel as gross as you feel. And don't try and cover it up and feel pretty if you don't feel pretty. Just like match the frequency, wallow in that whatever kind of crap it is, and then slowly, through the beautiful wisdom of your own body, you're going to find it just shedding. And on the other side of that experience, put on red lipstick immediately. Just put on red lipstick and watch what happens. So that's the Amanacer formula, like starter kit, I guess I just made up on the spot. Yay.
Red lipstick, that's like the cherry on top. Like, I love that. I love that. Oh, that's beautiful. So is there, you know, as we're sort of getting ready to wrap up here, we've touched on so much good stuff. Is there anything else that you would like to add or like to share sort of before we go?
I just want every woman to feel so creatively and juicy in her own body and so alive. And there are so many free tools that I've created over years and years. They're all completely free on Amanacer.ca. And it would give me so much pleasure just to like pop them out to everybody. So if this connects with you, please just grab the free guides and the free podcasts and all the things. And I'm so grateful to you for what you do and for igniting all the radiance and all the women in the bodies.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I'm going to make sure that the links to all of those awesome resources are in the show notes. So if anybody is interested, click on through. Super, super easy. Emily, thank you so much for joining me. This has been, I feel like I have so many more questions to you, but I didn't want this to go on forever. This has been such a joy though, to be able to pick your brain and hear your story and really sort of walk this path with you. You're so incredible. And I'm just really grateful for you to be here.
Well, thank you for making my face hurt by smiling so much, Katie. It's really fun, and
My
I
pleasure.
cherish you. Ciao for now.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. I hope that you enjoyed that beautiful interview with Emily. She's just such a gorgeous woman. I want to invite you to connect with her on social media, as well as access those freebies that she talked about. All of the links to do that are down in the show notes. Also, if you would like to join our free members hub, it is where some of my favorite self-love and body positivity resources are located. The link to do that is down in the show notes as well. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Here is to you loving yourself.